Hi, everyone.
Hey guys.
We are here today to talk about emotions and the brain.
Mm-hmm.
And so, one of the big things that we often struggle with in relationships is when we get flooded and
Right.
overwhelmed with emotions. And that typically happens when we get into arguments with our partner, regardless of what type of response we have, right? And
Right.
so I want Jared, tell us a little bit just about the brain. Don't make it too sciencey, yeah?
I'll try my
But
best. I'll try my best.
yes, but tell us a little bit about how emotions and the brain works.
Right. So, emotions are very powerful things because they can turn the most logical person into a very illogical person,
For
especially
real.
negative emotions and anger specifically. And when we're dealing with, arguments, our emotions can really trigger responses in our brain that really turn our brains off, essentially. So what ends up happening is that we end up having a flight or fight or freeze response when we get triggered, when we get really upset or angry in a situation. And what that does is that it causes the sympathetic nervous system, which is involved with adrenaline and so forth, to just go haywire. So we're getting ready to be attacked by a bear or hit by a car, but that's not what's happening. We are in a situation where we're dealing with our spouse. In those situations, you need to be able to act quickly and get out of the way quickly. So that response is perfect. But when you need to be able to sit down and have a logical conversation with your partner, that is not the response that you need. Unfortunately, what ends up happening though is that our brains get shut down, specifically our frontal lobes. That's the part of our brain where we use it to think, make decisions,
That's the executive functioning
that's
part of our
executive
brain.
functioning part of our brain where we do all our thinking and getting stuff done for the day. That part's get essentially shut down when we get flooded by all of these negative emotions and causes us to have this big adrenaline response. And what ends up happening is that we really can't think.
Right.
And so we're acting kind of like out of our primal selves. So we're just defending ourselves or we're attacking the person, but we're not necessarily engaging in a response that's going to be helpful for the situation.
And the thing is that, this response, the fight, flight, or freeze response, is a God given response.
Right.
So this is like human instinct that we were created with, we were designed to have.
Right.
So one of the things to note is that when you enter into this fight, flight, or freeze response, to remember that this is not something that you are doing that is necessarily wrong. It's just that you are telling your brain that you are in danger.
Right.
You are communicating to your brain that you're in danger. And so your brain has taken the decision to put your executive functioning offline.
Right.
Because now you're in survival mode.
Exactly.
If you are in danger to fight a bear, you best believe you better be in survival mode.
Exactly.
Right? And so either you're going to fight that bear, you're going to run as fast as you can, or you are going to freeze and play dead.
And all of you.
But think of it, all of that is survival. All of that is like survival mechanisms, right? And so when you are in an argument with your partner and you are flooded, you are triggered, and your response is either to fight, and when we fight verbally.
Right.
So we fight with all our emotions and all our anger and frustrations, and sometimes it could even border on verbal abuse.
Right.
If we are not careful.
Exactly.
Right? And then the other response might be to flee, right? Which is to run away, to walk away. You become so overwhelmed and flooded that you just cannot take it anymore, and so you choose to just
leave the situation.
Yeah, I'm not dealing with this. I don't have time for this. I'm out of here.
Right, exactly. And it's so interesting because you can take two perfectly rational,
normal, sane, people, highly educated.
Exactly. And people who get stuff done at very complicated jobs every day, and you put them in that situation with their partner, and they start acting like first graders. Because we get so overwhelmed, and that emotional response has overwhelmed our ability to kind of logically think about a situation. So you can really love somebody and still have this response towards them.
Yes.
It has nothing to do with how good your relationship is or anything like that. That can happen to anybody at any time. It's just to be aware of what's going on and figuring out how you can maybe mitigate that and maybe reduce the risk of that happening, and notice in your body when things are starting to change.
Notice when you're getting triggered, right? So for example, sometimes triggers happen because there's something about a particular situation that reminds us of something bad that has previously happened, right? And so when you are triggered emotionally, you are responsible for recognizing that, I've been triggered.
Right.
And it may or may not have anything to do with your partner.
Exactly.
It could have been something you smelt. It could have been, your kids. It could have been your boss. It could have been something benign. A trigger does not have to be something that somebody did
to you
to intentionally hurt you.
Exactly.
It could just happen, and I know that I try to be aware of my triggers, and I try to be mindful of, things that trigger me. So like my things that come up for me, sometimes I have abandonment issues, and so I'm very easily triggered when things mirror that.
Right.
And then I have to remind myself, okay, you're not in danger. This is not that. And I have to force my executive brain back online to logically kind of walk through those steps and be like, you're safe, he's safe, she's safe. This is not a dangerous situation. And therefore, I'm not going to respond either defensively or in an angry or upset way, because I'm able to catch the trigger and speak truth to it.
Exactly. And so when we're in these situations, oftentimes our brain wants to find a target, wants to find somebody who's causing us to feel this pain or whatever it is. And so oftentimes the person in front of us is that person,
Unfortunately.
And so our response, even if it's like a huge response, we'll find a way to say, I had this response because of what you did, because of how you made me feel. Not realizing that most of the times, yes, that person may have done something, but there's something far deeper going on that's causing that big of a response. And most of the times we're completely unaware of the bigger stuff that maybe have caused that. So as Cara said, previous things that may have happened to you that is getting tapped into in that situation that you're just not aware of.
I have a quick question. So, tell us a little bit about how, with emotions and the brain, how exactly, I know that, for example, there is a very strong correlation between our mental health and our physical health.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So tell us a bit about how emotions can impact our physical health.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of ways. I mean, I think God, obviously God is a super genius, and he created us in a way where all of these things are tied together. But our emotions, when our emotions are doing well, then we overall are doing well. Our bodies are doing well. So if we're happier, laughing more, the research shows that those types of people tend to live longer and have healthier lives, right? But if the opposite is also true, if you're feeling down a lot, or if you are oftentimes stressed and in this flight or fight response a lot because of situations that have happened, then it can have negative effects on our bodies. So we can get more likely to become depressed, get anxious, and maybe even develop an anxiety disorder. And sometimes it can cause medical issues to develop. So heart problems, increased risk of stroke, just a lot of things, increased risk of cancer. Like when we have like all of these biochemicals being emptied into our brains, when we are stressed out constantly or in a flight or fight response constantly, it has a lot of negative effects on our bodies, and our bodies start to break down essentially.
Exactly. So then what is the solution? Like, how can we make sure that we don't stress our bodies out or stress ourselves out to the point where, it's causing us either a physical or mental,
illness. Yeah. I mean, great question. I think, for a lot of us, we have to take stock of our lives, right? And oftentimes we don't really think about how we're doing, how we're feeling.
That's true.
Regularly enough. So we need to check in with ourselves. We oftentimes check in with other people more than we check in with ourselves.
That is true.
How am I doing today? How am I feeling? Most of the times we have no idea.
No.
So we have to practice kind of figuring out, am I feeling sad? Am I feeling irritable? And why is that? And being able to understand that can help a lot, because that allows us to change how we're feeling a lot. Other things too, making sure you're getting enough sleep. If you're not getting enough sleep, that's going to be a problem.
Yes, charged.
That's going to be a huge problem. Getting exercise is really important. Especially aerobic exercise, getting your heart going. And a little exercise is better than none.
So what's the minimum you would say that we need for it to be somewhat effective? Not weight loss effective, but just emotionally effective.
I mean, I think if you can get out there like 4 or 5 days per week and just, even go for a walk or a run, jog for like, 20 minutes.
Okay.
You know, that gets our sympathetic nervous system kind of like worked
Activated
out.
enough.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
then what happens is that after we finish exercising, our bodies actually get to a state of rest that was below where we were before. So our heart rate goes down, all that kind of stuff. And we just kind of like feel a lot better and calmer, you know.
Right.
Making sure you're eating right, you know. If you're eating a lot of junk food, that tends to rev up those negative systems
Guilty
more
as
easily.
charged again.
Right. and then also making sure that, you know, if spirituality is important to you,
Yes.
you know, prayer has been shown to be really powerful. As I said, God is a genius. He has tied the spiritual and physical world together. So prayer and meditation can be hugely helpful. And the more time you spend doing that, the better. And there's certain apps like the mindfulness app, the Calm app. Yeah, exactly. Breathe app. You know, there's several other apps out there that you can use that can be helpful for meditation and deep breathing exercises and so forth. So there's a bunch of things that you can do. And, you know, sometimes you kind of feel overwhelming, like, okay, there's so much I need to do.
Yes.
Start with one thing. Start with one thing. and attach it to something you're already doing in the day.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you sit down to watch TV at the end of the day, you know, maybe do some deep breathing exercises for like 5 minutes before you turn on the TV.
Or you know, you can do some squats while you watch a comedy show to make you laugh.
Exactly. You know, but doing something is better than nothing. And, you know, your body will thank you for it, you know, and obviously your spirit will thank you for it as well.
Yeah, I know, like, just the last couple of days we've gone swimming together after work, and that has made like a huge difference to me, because I have not been able to go to the gym, and the gym was just like my sanity relieving place. It was the place I went to Monday to Friday to work out, and because I don't have the gym anymore, I realize how my mental and emotional state has been tremendously affected. You know, as a result of not doing that. So I know for me, just moving and getting outside and getting sunlight and fresh air, and you know, even if the movement is just simple walking, you know, I'm not going to lose weight by that, but you know, it helps mentally and emotionally. And so I think, you know, to sum up everything that we've shared so far, one of the key take-home points is that you're in control of your emotional state, right? And a lot of times what we end up doing is letting our emotional state control us. So we let the stresses of life control us. We let our feelings of overwhelm, frustration, anxiety, sadness control us. And we don't give agency and power to the things that we have control over. You know, like, we have the choice of, like, if we're going to exercise, if we're going to go to bed early, if we're going to ask for help. If we're going to ask our partner to give us, you know, some reprieve, take a break, you know, it's so powerful if we were just to even just share our stresses together. I think that is a hugely connecting thing for couples to do, is to be able to say, babe, you know, I'm like stressed out at work. I'm stressed out with the kids. You know, I need for us to come up with a plan.
Right, exactly.
And I believe that two educated professionals with some type of degree can come up with a plan on how you can address the stress in your marriage, in your life, in your relationship, or in yourself, in your home. You know? And so I would just encourage everybody to just give yourself back that free agency and that power that you have, that you guys already have, and that you use in other settings like work. You know, and come up with a game plan for yourself and for each other, and take care of each other, and recognize that we are in stressful times. And even though this pandemic may look like it's coming to an end, and people may be acting like it's over, it is not. And so
it's very stressful times.
Yeah, and so we really need to take care of our mental health, and we need to take care of each other, you know. So tonight or tomorrow, you know, just really sit down and ask each other, how are you doing? You know, like, really, how are you doing? How are you maintaining yourself, your sanity, everything? And what is it that I can do for you?
Exactly.
You know, and that, you know, can move a mountain when you are there for each other and you come up with a game plan.
Exactly. All right, guys. Well,
that's all we have for today.
Thanks for joining us.
Yes.
All right. Take care.
Tune in for our next video coming up soon. And don't forget to subscribe, to share, and to like, and, you know, make sure you rate us highly. You know, just lie and tell everybody, give us 5 stars, and tell everybody that we're awesome.
All right, guys.
Take care.
Bye.